I want to just give you a very brief snippet of our background, and I'm going to talk about this more on Friday night. But we're just in the process of moving house, and that's because we're planting a church. I'm 59. Normally you go, oh no, is that possible? It's another disappointment in my life. Oh dear. Anyway, it's a big step for us to be doing this, it is sort of refreshingly wonderful the way God has turned my life upside down in the last year. And, but I just want to tee that up for Friday night. That's really going to be a bit more sharing some of the story of how God's led us in the last year. So there's a health warning on that for some of you. And I do think that when we hit those sort of moments of life's just starting to get a little boring, then often we face a choice. God's going to offer us an adventure, or we can just tick along. And we chose the adventure this time. I do love the theme of your summer camp. Loving on purpose. When I saw that theme, I was very excited. But I want to start by asking you a question. Well, a few questions, but here they are. Who do you love? I just want you to think about that. Right now, in your life, who do you love? And then I want you to reflect on how did that love start? And how has it grown? Because it hasn't happened by accident. And it hasn't happened without you taking some intentional steps. Just think of one or two people. And then I want you to think about, how do you show that love? How do you demonstrate your love? And then finally, what does it feel like to love that person, to love those people? Now, when the guy from Compassion got up on the stage, that's a really interesting and specific example of loving on purpose. And I've been sponsoring a child just quietly in Bolivia, George his name is, for, must be over 10 years. And finally, I can get some credit for it. But there is a sense in which each month as a payment goes out and we write and connect. But that's another example of me loving on purpose. But there's not really the personal connection. So for my examples of the people that I love, the first one would obviously be Helen. And that really was love at first sight. And I knew that. Because normally I'm very chatty and very confident, but then suddenly I didn't know what to say. I was nervous. The first time I went to meet her, I took a friend with me because I wasn't sure how it would go. It's crazy. And that was 32 years ago, and we met and we married within 3.5 months. We had Jesus really at the center, and we've just had a wonderful adventure ever since. Many highs, many lows, many difficult times, mostly caused by me. Well, apparently Helen tells me that. But I do think it's really important, and I hope you'll understand that, for men to have the last word, or the last words. And I found, yes, dear, works really well. Honestly, terrible, isn't it? Okay. But the thing I know about Helen and that I've learned is that gifts her love language. And they're not mine. And so for me to love on purpose and to demonstrate that in a meaningful way to Helen, she loves it when I buy her a gift. And it can't just be any old gift. It needs to be something that I've thought about, that I know that she would like. Now, this is a nightmare for me because I don't really care about gifts. I want attention and affection. That will be my love language. And so Helen might buy me a gift, and I just think, oh. So it's interesting, over the years we've learned how to love on purpose within our marriage. And I know that on the way home I know the bottle of perfume she wants me to buy because she showed me before I left. And it's just a little bit left in it. Oh, it's hilarious. Last time I was away, I bought her the perfume and it was the wrong sort. Didn't go down very well. Anyway, and then also the other people I would say that Helen and I have grown to know and love, and we love them on purpose over 30 years. There's another couple, Nigel and Helen Briggs, and Nigel's been the worship leader at Trent, but we knew Nigel and Helen 10 years before we got involved at Trent. And we holiday together, we go skiing together, and we have a lot of fun, often at our wives' expense. They're especially skiing, it's a source of great amusement. But there is a sense of which when you have those special relationships, actually we all need replenishing relationships. I mean, the way Sarah spoke last night was just astonishing. I just was blown away. And I thought, oh, I've got to follow that. But I thought she was really profound about that sense of, it's not about performance and it's not about shame. And when you find people that you can feel comfortable with and share time, because we, as Christians, we will have relationships where we love on purpose and it costs us, and we get exhausted and we get tired and burnt out, and we need those replenishing relationships. So I need to put the timer on just to make sure that I don't go too... Okay, here we go. Right. So I'm hoping as you've thought of those people, you keep them in mind. And I could ask any of us in this room, and there'll be some sort of similarities in how we love. And that we can find it easier to love at certain moments, and then at other moments there'll be the odd argument, disagreement, and that's when loving on purpose really kicks in, because we need to push through and we need to resolve those conflicts. And when love starts to break down or to be threatened, how do you feel? When people that you've known and loved and something goes wrong, it really devastates us. So I want to ask us this morning to focus on 4 questions as we consider loving on purpose. What is our call to love? We're going to look at briefly. How do we love on purpose? So how do we practically do that? What gets in the way? Some surprising things there. And what happens when love wins? Now, I want to have a passage read out. My Helen suggested, where's he gone? Christopher's friend is going to come and read 1 Corinthians 13 from the Message. I've got the mic here, so come on up. I've forgotten your name. We've just met. That's terrible. Mickle, that's it, Mickle. I want to say Michael, but it's Mickle. So, in a moment, Mickle's just going to, I want you to stop, listen, consider, reflect, as he's going to read it slowly. And let us think about how we love, how have we been loved, and how important love has been in our life. So, Mickle, come to the...
If I speak with human eloquence and angelic ecstasy, but don't love, I'm nothing but the creaking of a rusty gate. If I speak God's word with power, revealing all of his mysteries and making everything plain as day, and if I have faith that says to a mountain, jump, and it jumps, but I don't love, I'm nothing. If I give everything I own to the poor, and even go to the stake to be burned as a martyr, but I don't love, I've gotten nowhere. So no matter what I say, what I believe, and what I do, I'm bankrupt without love. Love never gives up. Love cares more for others than for self. Love doesn't want what it doesn't have. Love doesn't strut, doesn't have a swelled head, doesn't force itself on others, isn't always me first, doesn't fly off the handle, doesn't keep score of the sins of others, doesn't revel when others grovel. It takes pleasure in the flowering of truth, puts up with anything, trusts God always looks for the best, never looks back, but keeps going to the end.
Thank you. Can I keep that? Just let that sink in. You see, the thing about Sarah's talk last night that was so brilliant is highlighted because in that few verses from 1 Corinthians chapter 13, those first 7 verses, it just shows us that love is not about performing. And it's not about getting things wrong. It is about receiving and then giving. And this passage demonstrates how we are loved by God so that we can then love on purpose. And as followers of Jesus, we're called to love others until they ask why. And then when people ask why, we could just tell them not about the church. Let's tell them about how Jesus has made a difference in our life personally. And I think that's something that's more powerful than we realize. I've certainly found that to be true for Helen and I over the last 6 months as we've been opening our home up more and hosting parties and inspired by what Karsten and Helen have been doing, that whole gathering by just partying with people. And as we share what the difference Jesus has made in our life, it demonstrates how God has loved us. Let me read John 3:16. For God so loved the world, and this is on your summer camp website. It says you are invited to the summer camp 2018 to experience God's love and community with others. And it sounds so easy, but I know it's costly. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and his only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. Jesus was sent not just to come and perform and to make us feel shame, but he came not to judge, but to love, and demonstrated that by laying down his life so that we could have the option of eternal life. Now, I heard from, it was Anna, I can't pronounce her name, Agar? I still can't say it. Anyway, that last night, I think it was in the youth, 4 people gave their life to Jesus, which is amazing. It is amazing. It's something to celebrate. And it's not that I'm insecure, but I'm really hoping for more than 4 of you this morning to give your life to Jesus, if you haven't already. So do let me know, because I'd like to go back to Anna and say, 5. No, I'm sort of joking, and I'm sort of not. But I do believe there will be some of you, because I was one of those people that sat and went to things and thought, it's not me. And then there comes a point when the penny drops, when you suddenly have clarity and you suddenly start to realize how God loved on purpose, not so I could have a nice, easy life, but so that I could have an eternal future. And then you start to realize the price Jesus paid for us. And it's overwhelming. And it's a move of the Holy Spirit in our life, convicting us of our need for relationship with Jesus. And camps are a great place for that, chance to ask questions. But ultimately, and let me give you this example, because it's just popped in my mind. I could walk you around a swimming pool, and I could explain how nice it is. I could jump in and tell you what it feels like. But unless you take that step, you will not experience what it's like to swim in a pool or a lake. And it's the same with the love of God. Until you actually take the step of faith, believe in Jesus, acknowledge that you've messed up. We've all messed up. And that just trying to lead a good life is not going to do it. At that point, you will start to experience, if you open your heart and your mind to Jesus. I mean, that wasn't complicated to say. And if you've earned relationship with people in your home, and you're sharing a meal, and someone asks you, that's the sort of thing in your own words you can say, and you'd be amazed. People will go away and think about that. And I'm wanting to encourage, mostly from this talk, a shift from the church buildings to our homes. We can love on purpose. A lot of energy goes to doing that in church, and that's great. But we also need to open up our homes and our lives as outposts for the kingdom, places where we can entertain in a personal way people, so that they can see the difference Jesus makes in our life. And I'm really going off piste here. Right. Yes. So just to demonstrate how costly it is, the call to love on purpose can cost us our lives. And an example recently, the Thai diver Saman Kunan, he died while saving the 12 Thai boys and the coach. There should be a picture of him coming up. It cost him his life. Now that's a living day, recent example of someone who put themselves out. He loved on purpose, and it's cost his wife and his family. But 12 boys and a coach in a cave that were stranded, he's played an important role in seeing them saved. We can read so many stories in the Bible of people meeting and encountering Jesus, and how lives were transformed because of his love, because of God's love, because of the love that Jesus demonstrated. Jesus loves unconditionally. That's one of the things that I've heard many, many times. But it's only as I've started to plant over the last 6 months that I've needed to live that out in a new way. I've received unconditional love. I need to learn to love more unconditionally, seeing people, not as categories. Not sort of thinking, oh, that person is a this or a that or the... No, that person has a name, and I'm forming a relationship, and I want them to know unconditional love. We have a little slogan, our little church plant, Derwent Valley Vineyard. It's a long name, but it's designed to make you imagine it's in this beautiful valley, and it sort of is. A home for everyone, a hope for everywhere. And the idea behind that is, great, anyone can come and experience that profound sense of, I've come home, which I experienced in the vineyard many years ago, and I hear that so often. And it's those people, for those people that this can be home, they're the ones that will stay. But our desire as a church is that as people then leave and go back to their everyday, ordinary lives, they have a hope that they can take everywhere. And that's been inspirational for me, and it's been costly, because a home for everyone sounds good. And then when people start to come, and people that you think, oh, I wish you weren't coming here. Oh, no, and I'll tell you a few of those stories on Friday night. And God's just challenged me. I had no idea that I was so judgmental. And I just didn't know. You're just busy with church life, busy. But when you start to try and reach out to people, suddenly you start to become aware of the barriers that were there to defend yourself. Jesus, he loved imperfect, broken, vulnerable people, real people. And that's who we're called to love. And you have to choose to do that on purpose. Jesus loved criminals, adulterers, lepers. And who are the lepers in our society these days? It would be paedophiles. It would be people coming out of prison looking for a church. We had someone come to Trent years ago, and he'd come out of prison, and we were asking him, and how's it going? He said, oh, well, I went to my local church, and I introduced myself at the end of the service to the vicar as I was leaving. I shook his hand, and he asked me who I was and where I come from. And I told him I'd just come out of prison. And the vicar said, oh, we don't want people like you here. That's what the vicar said. So that was it. The guy was devastated. The vicar was happy. He didn't have a problem. But that's not what Jesus wanted. Those are the lepers of today. And you'll be thinking of others that are lepers. Well, we're called to love those. Obviously, we need to put healthy boundaries in place and safeguards. But most of all, we need to love on purpose. And Jesus is still doing that today, but he's doing it through us. No one was or is outside of God's love, God's mercy, God's grace. And the thing about Jesus is, when people met him, he just broke down all the sort of cultural barriers, all the social divides. Jesus broke them, and he wants to do that now through us. That's the challenge of loving on purpose. Jesus is for everyone, slave or free, criminals, officials, poor and rich, uneducated, educated, Jew, Gentile, the indigenous people, the refugee. Jesus was a refugee. Whether your skin color is black, brown, yellow, red, white, whatever the color, whether people are gay, straight, transgender, or whatever other label we put on them, whatever category we come up with. And I'm learning to put those categories aside. And I would challenge you that if you're going to love on purpose, you have to let go of categorizing people. Jesus' love was inclusive, and especially for the people that felt unworthy. He had a particularly soft spot for those of us who felt unworthy. And that's usually how we start our relationship with Jesus, because when we realize that we feel unworthy, it's because we're not worthy. But he loves us despite that. That mercy, that acceptance, that grace, there's no amount of doing and no behaviors that can earn any of that. And as we become aware of that, as we watch people come towards us, as Jesus starts to send the lost, those that don't know him, towards us, as he's drawing them to himself, we need to be careful that we're aware that they will feel unworthy. They will put up the mask that was mentioned the other night. They will come trying to justify themselves. We just need to not judge, unconditionally love, suspend judgment. I'm not saying don't be wise, But what we want to do is create environments where people feel incredibly welcome. I'll tell you another story in a moment, but let me just mention, when people met and encountered Jesus, something always happened. And something often that surprised the Jews and surprises us. And when somebody sees Jesus in you, or in your group, or in your church, it's surprising what can happen. Oh goodness, all these stories are popping into my head. I'm thinking, what do I share? Let me tell you one. Someone tell me when I've run out of time, will you? Because this is going to be a mess now. Okay. We've done Alpha in our home. And what happened was that there were 15 people that Helen and I and a few friends got to know over the last 4 or 5 years. It's 5 years now. Just by going to the gym. Partly because we were so frustrated that we were living in a church bubble. We had around about 100 staff that Helen and I oversaw between us. I know it's ridiculous, but you end up just feeling like you're in a bubble. We thought we need to go somewhere where we can meet people who don't know Jesus. So we went to the gym. Helen was the first, and she just talks to everybody. And now I go, and I enjoy doing the classes, the spin class. I've lost a significant amount of weight, and I'm keeping it off. I'd like to lose a bit more. I'm after that elusive six-pack. You know, but I have discovered something. If you eat less, you lose weight. It's amazing. I think I'm going to write a book about that. I thought you had to just exercise lots, but that's only 15% of it. 15% is get some decent sleep, but 70% eat less. It's amazing. Anyway, so Helen would like me to eat even less, but that's another story. So we invited these people, and we hoped sort of 4 or 5 might come to our home, and we've never actually done the Alpha course properly, and I got all the videos lined up, and I watched them, and the new ones, I thought they're very good. Anyway, 14 people came, and we got some help from our church and people hosting. We put on this great event, and we watched the video, and then we sort of got into groups and talked and shared a little bit. People seemed to be really enjoying it. And at the end of the evening, I said, so if you could ask God one question, what would it be? And they went around the room and they had some great questions they'd like to ask God. But there was one problem. I realized we have started the Atheists Anonymous Alpha course because nobody even believed there was a God. I was stunned. And there's a great guy called Gareth. I've got another story about him. And Gareth, first thing he said to me is, look, I'm gay. Is that okay for me to be here? I said, Gareth, you were really welcome. And he said, oh, and I'm an atheist. And I said, great, that qualifies you for being here. And anyway, so as we went round the room, Gareth just smiled more and more as people said, I don't believe there's a God, but if there was a God, I'd ask him this question. And so, and I was started thinking, I looked at Gareth, I could see him smiling. And then Gareth said, I feel really at home now. And I said to Gareth, I feel completely outnumbered in my own home. And but there was something magical about it, because I went to sleep that night thinking, I have no idea how we're going to do this. Second week came along, and they did the... we did the video again, and then we just asked them, what do you think of the videos? Nobody liked the videos. They said, well, he said, look, it's just promoting Christianity. It's an Alpha course. This is finding out about we sort of want a more balanced approach. What about other religions? I'm not running something to promote other religions. Anyway, so they didn't like the videos, but they really enjoyed coming round for the meal and everything. We had a lot of fun. So, and I'm thinking, I don't know what to do. And usually at that point, Helen comes up with a good idea. So Helen just announced to the group, we didn't discuss this. No, it doesn't happen that way. If I'd have just done that, I'd have been in massive trouble. And, anyway, Helen just says, we're not going to do the video next week. Oh, great. What are we going to do, Helen? She said, I'm going to invite 3 people who've come to faith in Jesus, but from different backgrounds, and they're going to tell their story, and then we can ask them questions. Would you like that? Yes, everybody said. And I'm thinking, really? Where are we going to find them? Who are you going to ask? Who's going to want to put themselves in front of 14 atheists who don't believe in God and tell them a story? And anyway, that's what we did. And then the next 2 weeks we did that, and then the week after we did it again. Well, and this was spread over a period of about 5 or 6 weeks. We had a little break in between. But do you know what was amazing? Is just by, this is a little example. It's probably the thing that's most important. We just opened our home. We just let our home become an outpost for Jesus, for his kingdom. And all we did was offer hospitality, invite our friends, and we had a little bit of structure, but people knew what they were coming to. But then we were very relaxed. Right at the beginning, I said, look, we are not trying to convert you. That's not our job. We're here. We're in relationship with you. We want you to, have an opportunity to understand our faith a bit more. But we're just wanting to, allow that to happen. And we're just trying to create a safe environment. You may never come to faith, but we want you to have the opportunity to hear. And people appreciated that level of honesty. We weren't trying to, and that's one of the things we've got to be careful of, trying to manipulate people. You get them to a party, but really it's a boring party because you don't have any alcohol, and all the food is cheap, and it's presented badly. And then at the end, you even say, well, and if you want to make a contribution towards the cost of this party, you can. And all of that. I don't know if you've been to those. I've been to those. It's painful. And it's always Christian. And, I never see that happening in the world. Anyway, so what I'm trying to say is catch hold of the vision that Jesus is calling us to open our lives. And the best place to do that is where you live. If you're just living in an apartment, and isn't it wonderful on the camp? We're all sort of around each other a lot, and that environment allows us to relate. Proximity is so important. If you can host in your home, people appreciate it. This is the real you they're seeing. They're looking at the pictures you have on the wall. They'll go and check out what your toilet's like, and some of them always sneak up and, can we look at the house and all of that sort of thing. And just be yourself, just be real, just be normal. That's what loving on purpose means. Don't be fake. Hold on a sec. So where have we got to? And John 13, 34 to 35. I think Fleming quoted this one as well. A new command I give you. Love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. We are often the face of Jesus to other people. And my question to you is, what do they see? What do they see when they look at you? Are they seeing Jesus shine out? Or are they seeing you being stressed and hassled because you're not sure which school your child is going to go to? Or your car is broken down, you're not sure what's going to happen. All these practical hassles in life. Jesus just said, seek first the kingdom, and all of this I'll sort out. I'll tell you a little story briefly. Yesterday, the reason I've been allowed to come is that as we're due to move on the 27th of July. That's next week, I think, or very soon. And so my Helen was saying, there's no way I can come, Tom. We've got too much to do, but you go. And she's been packing. Anyway, yesterday, I got a phone call in the morning. No, was it yesterday, the day before? The day before, I got a phone call in the morning. That would have been Tuesday. Yes, Tuesday morning, I got a phone call from the estate agents, from our solicitors saying, the people buying our house have pulled out. This has gone on for about 5-6 months. We've all signed contracts. Everything was meant to happen. They pulled out. No reasonable explanation. They've just decided, and we were gutted. And so, big shock. And then I'm here, and Helen's frustrated. And from my perspective, it's like, oh, wow, this is going to be interesting to see what Jesus is going to do now. Because we need to live somewhere. We're planting a church. It wasn't my idea, it was his. So he's going to have to shift the house before we can do this. So I'm a bit stupid like that. I just thought, well, being shallow as a man, it's a gift from God that I have. It just didn't really bother me. And whereas it really bothered Helen. And she's not so shallow. She's like a deep well and thinks and reflects about everything, and everything's connected to everything, and so that means a problem there. Whereas for me, it's like, oh no, I'm just in this box and nothing affects me. I'm here. So it's just so fascinating, isn't it, how, I mean, women are obviously the upgrade, but I prefer the first model, personally. It's easier to live. I'm in so much trouble. This is recorded as well. Oh, Lord. I hope it's not live. Oh, it is. Okay, right, anyway. Trying to look dignified. But what do people see? What do they see? Now, yesterday morning, I got another phone call. And our house has been sold to a cash buyer. It took 1 day. 1 day. Amazing. It's amazing. The estate agent knew someone who was interested in our house before, phoned them up. They were just about to buy another house when they heard ours was back on the market. Same price, everything. And we will now move, I think it's 1 week later. It's incredible what God can do when you don't get stressed. No, but it does demonstrate when you're seeking first the kingdom, he will look after stuff. Now, it doesn't always happen like that, I know, but I'm grateful to be able to celebrate that incredible story, and that's happened because gathering in the name of Jesus, special things happen. It's my little miracle. Brené Brown, some of you may know her, she said this amazing thing. Where there is an absence of love, where there is an absence, where love isn't, where in a relationship there is no love, and where there's an absence of love and an absence of belonging, there is always suffering. I thought that's an incredible statement, and it makes so much sense. When people don't feel loved and when they don't feel they belong, it causes them suffering. So that's why we are called to love on purpose, so that we can be a safe place for people to resolve their suffering. Matthew 22. We are called to put to love is to put the needs of other people first. And to lay down our lives and serve others. Jesus replied in Matthew 22:36, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment, and the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. Now, my second question is, how do we love on purpose? Well, we love God, we get filled up, and then we can love our neighbor, and we spend it. It's a practical thing. It's a choice. Loving on purpose, it's a choice. And it's a choice that Jesus allows us. It's a commandment from God, but we still have to choose whether we're going to be obedient, as Fleming talked about, to that command. You don't have to, but if you don't, you're just stupid. It's that simple, really. And there's a sense in which many of us have days when we are just stupid. I'm quite good at that. But the thing is, it's a decision of the heart and the mind. And I know there are times when it's difficult. No one said it would be easy. But anything done with purpose requires action. You can't love without action. You can't love other people without putting something into action, whether it's opening up your home or whether it's paying for some need that you know they have and you know God's been speaking to you about it. It's meant to be costly. You know, again, these images pop into my head. It's very inconvenient. But the thing about a waterfall that makes it so beautiful is that there's water falling. It's true, isn't it? It's very beautiful. And but if the water stops falling, guess what? There's no waterfall. It's gone. And that's what it means to love on purpose. If we store everything for ourselves, if we don't spend ourselves, the love we've received is like that water at the top of the waterfall. That comes from God. But we've got to let it go. We've got to spend our money, our time, our energy. It's inconvenient. We'll feel in free fall. We'll be wondering, but what if the supply dries up? Well, that's where God loves us, to step out in faith and demonstrate his love to others. He's entrusting resources to us. You know, purpose gives us a reason. It's the why. So when we do these things, people will ask why, because they can't. They're storing everything. They're holding on to the little resources they have. They haven't learnt that as they let go, God will provide more. John 15:5, Jesus said, I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me, if you remain connected to me, and I in you, you will bear much fruit. We will see much evidence of God at work in people's lives. That's what the fruit is. Apart from me, you can do nothing. I remember being a young Christian and thinking, I can do plenty, but we'll do nothing of eternal significance. We'll do nothing that actually sees hearts and lives turn to Jesus in our own strength. What would loving on purpose look like practically? Well, if we start with loving God on purpose, then that will be time alone. Worship, I mean, the worship here is just, you have no idea how good your worship is. I mean, you know, I travel around a bit and I can assure you this is an oasis to worship. And you can come and be in a bad mood or be worried about something or someone who's irritated you, and that's just stupid. If you can just let it go and get lost in worship, it's just a wonderful gift God's given you, and you will get healed up. It's amazing what God does as we worship. And then prayer and Bible study. So remember to love God first on purpose. And then what would loving our neighbor on purpose look like practically? There's so many possibilities here, but there's a few consequences that I need to warn you about. Because if you're not aware of these, you will get burnt out. Loving people on purpose will cost you time, energy, and money. It will be inconvenient and it will be risky. Let me just repeat those so that you really do understand what it will cost. Time, energy, money. All of those things are given to us by God. You don't know how much time you've got. You don't know how much money you could have. And for many of us, we run out of energy, but God can provide more. You don't know when God's going to want you to stop what you're doing because he's put someone who needs... just the other day, there was a knock at my door. The house is a mess. Helen was out. And so I just went to the door, and there was a woman. She looked really upset. She was about 40. She was on her bike, and she was just distressed. And she asked about the neighbours. My neighbours on the other part of my semi-detached house, they've all just moved out because the house is going to be renovated. So they've moved out. And she said, have the neighbours gone? And I said, yes, they've gone. And she started to cry. I said, what's the matter? She said, they bullied me for years, 5 years. She was totally traumatized. And I thought, this is inconvenient, Lord. I'm trying to pack to move. And when Helen comes back, she's going to go, I thought you were packing. And I thought, there's no way. I thought, I need to just. So I couldn't invite her in. She was with the bike. So I just explained what had happened, and I heard her story. And then I just asked her, I said, are you spiritual? And she said, yes, I'm spiritual. I said, well, I'm a Christian, and you just need to forgive them and let it go. And she looked at me sort of angry. I thought, okay. So I sat down on the step at this point thinking, okay, I just need to, it's always easier when you lower yourself. And I just looked at her and I said, I know you're hurting, but it's only damaging you now. And we had this conversation, and I just saw her heart soften, and I just encouraged her. I said, you just need to go and spend some time with Jesus. She wasn't actually a Christian. So I just explained a little bit. And I don't know what will have happened, but it was inconvenient. It cost me time and energy, because when I did get back in, I had to work twice as fast. But do you know what I mean? What I'm saying is, that was a priceless moment, because I came away and inside I just felt that God go, well done, good and faithful servant. And there's been many times when I've not done that and I've sort of regretted it, thinking, oh, why didn't I? But rather than live with regret, let's just love on purpose. What time am I meant to finish? Now. Yeah, okay. Okay, we're halfway through the talk, and now we're going to finish. So let me just try and find a good story to finish on. Yeah, I think I've got one here. I've got 2 short stories for you. Let me recommend a book. I've got plenty of material for Friday night now anyway. That's a relief. So I want to recommend a book to you. Jay Pathak and Dave Runyon, The Art of Neighbouring. I've had that book for years, never read it. I've read it recently. I'm planting a church, it's suddenly relevant to me. And it is brilliant. And it just unpacks how they give you tools and just wisdom about how someone in your neighbourhood can go from being a stranger. And a stranger is someone who you don't know their name. They can become an acquaintance. It's genius. It's a bit like losing weight, you just eat less. Well, with someone going from stranger to acquaintance, all you need to do is know their name. That's all. As soon as you know someone's name, you're an acquaintance in your local. And then to move into relationship, you just need to invite people to things that you're hosting, and you move in. It's genius, really. And most of us, there's many reasons why we don't do this. And I was going to unpack them, but I'm not now. I'll carry on Friday night a bit. I just want to tell you the story I'm telling on myself now. We had a church picnic. As we planted our church, one of the things I noticed is that we were just doing one service a month in March. But it wasn't enough, because there's about 30 adults I felt connected to, and then there's about another 30 that were showing an interest. But there wasn't time and space. So we thought, right, in April we'll start doing 2 Sunday mornings so people can gather and we can get to know them. And we threw in a picnic, beautiful sunny day. And we went to this Alveston Castle, lovely grounds. Everyone brought their own food. I've got some great pictures of us all sitting around. And Chrissy, transgender, Christian, and great person. She turned up. And the thing about Chrissy is that it's been a very painful journey. She's still married, still got kids, and very much looking for a home. Helen's invested a lot of time with that transgender group, just listening to their stories. When you hear people know their names and hear their stories, you suddenly stop judging them so much. And who would choose that life? It's so hard for them. Anyway, Chrissy turned up to the picnic, and I spent the whole time politely avoiding engaging with her. I just didn't know how to cope as a bloke. And at the end of it, I came away and God really challenged me. So, Tom, a home for everyone, is it? Oh, a hope for everywhere. Did Chrissy walk away with hope today? Oh, it's painful. And Chrissy's decided to make our church home. Other people have been amazing with her. And next time we had a Sunday, I made a point of pressing through my terror line. I need to go and engage and just treat Chrissy as a person with no judgment, but just love on purpose. We need to stop